Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, we could really use your help. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, recently named the Two Opinionated podcast one of its top 100 podcasts. This is a monumental feat for this program. We're a father and son team out of a small town in West Virginia, have been doing this for about 5 years. There's 15 million podcasts out there. About 40,000 of those get to the point that they're listed on IMDb. Out of those 40,000 out of the 15 million, we were ranked number 82. Something that we're just immensely proud of. We're so thankful for our listeners, our watchers, our fans. Thank you so, so much. If you would like to help us out, and we're asking for it, please. It's easy. It's really easy. It's free. If you go to IMDb, that's imdb.com, look up Two Opinionated Podcast, and just take a look at the page. That's all you have to do. I mean, you're welcome to look at the cast, look at the episodes so you can kind of see who's been on the program. Do whatever you want. But even just bringing up the page, imdb.com, Two Opinionated Podcast, bring up the page, look at it. That helps us so much. So please, if you can do anything, we would really appreciate that. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Love to have your subscription there. It's also free. And you can also check out our website, meistercon.com, where you'll find almost 700 episodes, audio and video, available on there. There's also a terrific blog from Brett, and it'll let you know anything that we have going on in studio, if we're covering a convention, if we're going on location, anything that we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so, so much. We appreciate you so much. I can't express enough how appreciative we are of all of you. We never expected to do as well as we have, and that's all because of you. Thank you so much. Enjoy that interview. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Opinionated. I'm so excited today. I've got writer, director Richard Bakewell with me. So welcome, Rick.
Thanks for having me. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I'm excited. So the movie is Roswell Delirium, and I can't wait to talk about it because it's got that 80s feel, and I'm an 80s kid, so I'm excited about it. But before we get into it, tell me a little bit about yourself. What got you into the entertainment business?
Well, when I was a kid, my dad took me to see Star Wars, and I remember I was so mad because we walked in and it was like ending, so we got there early before the movie actually was over, and I saw the end of the movie. I'm like, oh, it's all ruined, and then like since that day when I saw Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, E.T., Back to the Future, is like, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to make those kind of movies. That's what I want.
Yeah, well, and that's pretty young to kind of figure out what you want to do and then stick with it.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it doesn't typically happen, but I remember when I was like 5 years old, I asked my uncle for $5,000, and he's like, "What for?" I said, "Well, I want to like make my own version of Grease so I can kiss this girl that I like." And he's like, "Here's $5, go away." So I'm like, "Oh, all right, well."
I love that story.
I tried, I did try. So, but I just always connected to movies since I was a kid. That's always what I wanted to do. So.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, and I know you've done some of the cinematography and director of photography stuff as well. It was the goal always to get to the point where you were directing and writing your own stuff, or is that, did that just happen as you went along?
Well, I kind of I went to film school in Chicago at Columbia College, and I was meeting people who had graduated and like they were directing majors, and like they were 5 years out of school and they were still like a production assistant. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be a PA and the lowest on a totem pole after I graduate for 5 years. I can't afford that life, So I went for directing in school, and I kind of shifted to cinematography because I was like, well, I want to have a craft that I can at least I can shape and learn the camera, and then have that be a way to make money and still be in the business until I get to the point where I can direct, you know, and that was just kind of like a leaping stone for me. And then, you know, a lot of the jobs in the last 10 years have been directing and DP or just directing. And then sometimes I direct, don't get the credit for it. Sometimes I do, you know, all this depends, but every job is kind of like the leader role in the last 10 years. So that's kind of been the path. So,
I mean, it's pretty smart because it gives you multiple ways to earn a living.
sure.
You know, while, you know, so you're not, if you can't direct, maybe you can be DP, or maybe you can do some cinematography work, you know, whatever it is, because entertainment business is not easy to survive without something coming in.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is, I call it a shark pool. You know, you have to deal with a lot of people who, you know, they try, like, I think it's the only profession when they try to like lowball you to like, you know, and get you like, oh, can you do it for this much money? And I'm like, that's not very much money. And then you're always negotiating, and people will try to like, you know, step over you and take some of your clients away, you know, and it's like, well, actually those are mine. And, you know, it's a lot of just, you know,
it's a battle.
It's a battle, and you don't like it. It's hard to maintain friendships in the business, sadly. So,
yeah, oh yeah, it has to be. It has to be because there's only so many spots.
exactly, and there's always somebody hungry and who doesn't care what they have to do to get to that point, you know. So,
yeah. So okay, so let's talk about Roswell Delirium, because I love the concept. I love the cast, of course. I love the vibe. And this is all coming. I haven't seen it yet. I've only read about it. So tell us a little bit. What's Roswell Delirium about?
So basically, it takes place in the 80s, and then it follows a little girl who's like 12, and then her mother, who, you know, on the opening sequence of the movie, you know, they're watching TV, and then all of a sudden they find out that the Soviets have sent over like 6 dozen warheads, and the Cold War is no longer cold. They're attacking the US, and it's a fight for survival. And then we kind of cut to years later where everyone's kind of dealing with all the radiation poisoning, pretending like it never happened. Very similar to COVID, where it's like, here we're all like in lockdown, but then now we're back to normal again. Like, oh, don't even talk about it. It's fine. And that's kind of the world they live in, but they're slowly dying. They just don't know it. And what happens is they all become delusional and think that like Area 51 is now this magical place called space rock, where it can heal you and save you. Even though you're dying, you can take your loved ones there and it will save you. And so the little girl in the movie tries to make contact with like aliens on these ham radios and gets kind of all these messages, and ends up going out to space rock, but then gets more sick. And then her mother has to bring her back out there again later because she feels like the aliens can save her, no one else can.
I mean, that it like listen to it, you're like, well, that sounds crazy. But if you grew up in the 70s and 80s, I mean, that was the constant fear.
Oh yes.
That we were going to get. I mean, I remember hiding under the desk, you know, doing the drills. Yeah, I'll tell people that. I'm like, yeah, we used to have the nuclear drills.
Right.
I don't know why they thought hiding under the desk was going to help, but I remember doing those.
Well, you know, and it's funny because like I think like right up until a week before we started filming, I kind of forgot about that, because when I was a kid, it was only like stop, drop, and roll for fire. But everybody else I talked to, like Lisa Welchel, you know, in the movie, they were like, oh no, we had nuclear drills. So we kind of like incorporated those into the movie and just like changed it up. So all the kids every day in class, they have to do the nuclear, you know, drops to the floor.
Yeah.
Cover your head. And, you know, so that became a very theme in the movie. Just always, there's always the nuclear invasion waiting to happen again. There's always a second attack that could happen. So.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as a kid, you didn't worry about it a ton, but you had Red Dawn, you had some of those movies that kind of, you know, showed, you know, what if we were attacked or invaded, and you did spend a little bit of time thinking about it.
Sure. I mean, it was every day of your life, and you're always worried, is today the day when the nuclear warheads come? And there was all these moments in the 80s where it almost did happen, because I remember one time there was this thing called the Able Archer 83 drill that we talk about in the movie, where all of a sudden, you know, they did this whole evacuation method for the president to get him out of the country in case that happened. And the Russia, like, they caught on, and it was almost like a full-on nuclear attack. Like, they were like worried that we were going to attack them first. So there was always a threat of that. So
yeah, it was tense. It It was a very tense time, and I don't think it's that big a stretch. Like
No.
if you watch people that that are desperate, that
Right.
have an illness, something wrong, that will go to maybe an evangelist
Yep.
to try to get healed because they're so desperate. So I don't know that it's that big a leap to think that after a nuclear holocaust, maybe we start thinking, maybe there's this legend of aliens at Roswell that can help
Right.
people. I mean, it sounds crazy when you first say it, but if you live through some of that, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
probably what would happen,
Right.
after a nuclear attack.
Right. And it's like, how do you put your life back together? And it's like, and how far would you go to save your loved ones? It's like in the movie, like Dee Wallace plays a grandmother who was trying to get her grandson to space rock to save him because he's dying of cancer, and
Yeah,
so it's like everyone is desperate for like survival in this movie. So
I know. I'm so excited to watch it, and I love Dee. Dee's been on the podcast. She was absolutely terrific. Sam Jones has been on the podcast.
oh,
One of my
nice.
favorite interviews with Sam, because he did the entire interview in his living room standing up. He never sat down. And and he's like, I'm talking with him, and he's surrounded by literally hundreds of boxes.
Oh
And
boy.
I asked him, I was like, Sam, are you moving? And he's like, nah, these are all my figures of me.
Oh my God. That's funny. He's a character. I mean, that guy is a character. He is so fun to work with. I mean, he loves being on set, loves the crew so much. He just wanted to have fun and make jokes the entire time. And then once we said, rolling,
Yeah, then he's
right
a
to it.
professional. He's
Oh
ready
yeah.
to go. He still looks like he could kick some butt.
Oh no, I mean, he is a big guy. I mean, he is humongous. Like when I was a kid, I had the Laserdisc of Flash Gordon, so I watched that 1,000 times. And then like I remember there's a moment where I'm just like, he's sitting at the desk and I'm looking at him and I'm like, your face is just so familiar to me. It's like you're almost like my dad. I've seen you so
Yeah.
many times in my life, and he's just this giant, massive, like humble giant. He's just amazing guy.
I mean, that had to be fun putting that cast together because you grew
Yeah,
up watching them.
yeah. I mean, I grew up watching everybody, and when we were kind of like developing the casting, I was like, I really want to like take a book out of like the Star Wars legacy idea where it's like in The Force Awakens, you have all these new characters, and then here's all these old characters that kind of come in and grace the screen for a short time. And
Yeah.
it was like, who can we really bring in to make you feel like you're back in the 80s? So there was like, well, Sam Jones has to be like, some kind of like Secret Service type guy or somebody in the FBI somewhere. And and Dee Wallace, because she's like the heart and soul of ET. And I feel like, she gives the film like such as like credibility and like heart. You just like when she's on screen, like you get very emotional. There's like she has some pretty tough scenes in the movie. And Lisa was like, I need the face of, the 80s in the film as a teacher. Like, because when I was a kid, a teacher was always a very crucial part of my life in every grade. And I'm like, I want when you watch it to feel like you're watching an 80s movie when Lisa Whelchel from The Facts of Life just turns around and you see her for the first time on screen, and it just brings you back there.
I know. I mean, she's so recognizable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She
I mean,
is.
well, and you had Reginald, from Family Matters,
Yep.
on, some of the other stuff. And it just, as soon as you see them, you're just right back there, sitting on the couch watching them.
Oh no, and it's funny because I love Die Hard. It's one of my favorite movies.
Oh,
And
same.
I mean, I think everyone loves Die Hard, and we brought him in, and he's just like, I wrote the character originally that he plays to be this kind of like very scary guy, and he comes in and interrogate the little girl in the movie Mayday, and then he comes in, he's so lovable, and I had to kind of change the character a little bit because you just like him so much. So he's kind of like the guy, he's the villain who can smile and laugh at you, but really he's out for you. And then Michael Hall, I was like, we need somebody from that world that feels like The Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, all those movies. We need someone just to really bring it home. And I filled the whole movie with like Easter eggs. There's like 200 Easter eggs of 80s references in the
Love
movie.
that.
that people will not realize, but they're there. Like, there's not like there's the Jenny number 8675309 on the ham radios. There's little hints here and there. And I wrote the script, and it's funny because when he's doing the therapy scenes, the girl says, "I survived two nuclear attacks and Wally World," a reference to National Lampoon's Vacation.
Love that.
And I didn't cast him yet as a therapist, but then when we did that line, he didn't even flinch. I'm like, you have to like realize that's from that movie, and he just played it off. I'm like, come on, we all know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's had such a fun career because
Oh yeah.
he was such a comedic actor starting out. He was on Saturday Night Live and did that, and then he kind of went into the sci-fi stuff, and now he's become just an actor. He does all kinds of stuff now. But growing up, if you saw him in a movie, it was probably a comedy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And he's so good at it too. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was saying, I watched like Weird Science before we shot with him in August last year, and he has that really great nonverbal acting where he can like make you laugh without saying anything, but it's all on his face. And like a lot of actors don't have it, and he's always had that quality. That's why John Hughes loved him so much.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he gives so much without saying anything.
Yeah. And that's very important, especially because like when I direct, people think it's crazy, but I will shoot the other person for like 4 minutes in a scene, even if they only have like 4 sentences, because I want their reactions, because you never know when you're going to need that moment, on screen again.
That.
So,
That's
smart. And people are like, you're rolling the whole time. I say, yeah, because I might want you looking down at something that they say. There's something I want later, and it's like important later on when you're building the edit, because the edit is when you really retell the story in a different way. So, and you reshape the movie. So,
yeah, I love the fact that you just loaded it with Easter eggs from the 80s. I'm assuming Mayday Malone's from Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're the only one. And it's so funny. The little girl plays Mayday Malone, Kylee. I told her that. She goes, "You named me after a guy?" And I'm like, I said, it wasn't the intent, but like Malone was always the idea for the last name. And then when I wrote the film and had it all ready to go, I figured we would call her Mayday because the whole film was almost like a cry for help.
Yeah.
So it's like Mayday Malone. And then, I don't think it's in the trailer, but like, her like ham radio name is Mayday Star Killer 51. And if people who know Star Wars, that was the original name for Luke Skywalker, Star Killer. So there's all these references in the movie, and she didn't know any of them. Like not so I was
too young.
Yeah, and I would mess with her every day. There's Top Gun references, and I'm like, you just don't know any single reference, and she's like, no, I don't. I'm like, okay, well, at least you're honest. So
well, hopefully she's inspired to go back and watch some of that stuff, because there's some great stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of great movies back then, and people always say, "Oh, well, the cinematography wasn't that great back then." But if you watch films like E.T. and Empire Strikes Back, the camera is always moving. I mean, it's doing some great push-ins.
Those films hold up.
Yeah, they hold up. I mean, there's a lot of 80s movies that are just very like, cut. But those movies are very cinematic. Spielberg, Lucas, and all them, Kirshner, I mean, they were just, ahead of their time. So,
yeah. I just finished a Cheers rewatch, getting ready for the new Frasier. So I'm
okay.
I went through Cheers, and I didn't quite make it all the way through Frasier before the new one came out. I think we're on like season 7 or something. I mean, both shows ran forever.
Oh yeah, like 13 years or something.
Yeah.
11, 13 years. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like Cheers. Yes, it's it starts in the early 80s, so you don't have cell phones, anything like that. But it holds up. The humor holds up.
Oh yeah, and it's still funny. I watch it, I can still laugh these days. It still holds up.
Yeah, I love that. When I saw that, I was like, that has to be based on Cheers.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of references. Wendy, like the mom, the girl plays Wendy Ari in the movie. Wendy is based on some Bruce Springsteen songs. We talked about Wendy, together, Wendy, we can go through this madness, and that's what the film is about, going through madness. So I was like, that's the name, Wendy.
I love it. I think that's just the best. Did you put yourself in a cameo?
There's a very small cameo, but I don't like films where directors have lines.
Yeah.
You know, we're like, so I'm in there for 3 seconds. I don't like when like directors cut to and do this whole like talking thing. And I know like some people do it. But I'm like, no, because then it becomes about me. And I don't, for me, it's about the actors, and it's like, let it be about the actors and don't get distracted. So,
Yeah. But I like the fact that you're in there even just for a couple of seconds.
yeah. And there's also like I have a small, like couple sentences on a ham radio. I say a couple things, but nobody has figured out yet. So that they will. So,
Yeah. Yeah. What a fun movie to make. How long did it take you to film?
we shot for 18 days, the first like in
Yeah.
the summer of August last year, and then we took a little hiatus because there are so many prosthetic pieces for the face and the arms and the hands. I don't know if you saw any in the trailer. There's a couple of shots, but there's so much. And like, you know, the one scene they're in the desert and the mom gets burned up, and you know, it was like 110 degrees in August, so we had to wait for the weather to cool
Right.
because you know the makeup would have just kind of ran off the arms and the face. So we waited until like December and shot for 5 more days. So it was like 23 days total, and it you know and it was a lot of work. You know, it was like the days were like 14 hours, 12 hours,
Those
nothing
are
too
long days.
crazy, but you know we were in like Lancaster, the Salton Sea. I mean, Riverside, Cherry Valley, you know, all over the place. So
Yeah, that's a complicated shoot.
yeah, and it was never easy. I mean, we're in a bunker, we're at a jail, Lancaster for the last day. I mean, it was a lot of like hard locations, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Where'd you find the bunker?
There's a website called like Gigster, and they kind of like promote all these locations because I really wanted like a almost like a old school, you know, bunker. And this guy had basically taken his home that was part of the bunker and now lets you film there, you know. So I was like, it's
Awesome.
an amazing place in like downtown LA that you would never know was there. Like you would drive by and not even know it was there, you know, but it's kind of hidden off on the street, and then it's got this big, you know, the tubing, and it's you walk in and it's like it looks cool, but then when we shot, it was 106 degrees outside, and we can never cool the place down. So, like Sam Jones is supposed to be in a radiation suit the entire time he's in the scene, but it was so hot. I was like, if he's in that suit, he's gonna die. He's gonna pass out. So we had to put him in the suit and tie instead. You know.
No air conditioning underground.
No, I mean there was, but it just couldn't keep up with the heat. It was just like they were fighting each other the whole day, so we never could get it cool. So.
I was out in LA in October, and I wanted to go down to the lines. You know, I had friends that were picketing. I just wanted to kind of check it out. Well, it was 110 degrees. So I was like,
Yeah.
I want to support you, but I'm going to be doing it from my hotel room. I'm not standing out on that asphalt.
Oh no. And you know, when I went to go scout the Salton Sea 3 years ago in the pandemic, it was 113 degrees, and I'm like, oh my God, we definitely can't come here in the summertime. They're gonna die. So
you know, we've got that old presidential bunker here in West Virginia at the Greenbrier.
Yep.
You know, could have come out this way. We'd have put you up.
You know, we thought about traveling, but there's so many pieces to move, and I'm like, you know, we need to keep it close, and that's when we're lucky and we found that location. You know, really saved the day. So
yeah, that's pretty awesome.
I mean,
that's pretty great. I had no idea there was bunkers anywhere in LA.
oh no, me neither. And you know, for me, it's like, you know, this is not the biggest budget movie, but we have all these cast members and young cast, and it's like, you know, I think we definitely maximize our locations because there's some pretty cool places. Airplane crash site, you know, we have all these great spots that we got, you know, to deal, and you know, everyone kind of helped out, so it was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Do you have plans to revisit this at some point, or is this a one and done?
Well, you know, it's so funny because the premiere we had on Thursday, everybody wanted to know that question because they love the movie so much. Like when we filmed it, you could tell like everybody was so invested. They really cared about the characters, and I've never had that before where everybody is so into this project. They would come on their days off just to watch people. They were that's how much they loved it, and they were asking me. Are we doing a sequel? And I said, well, I have an idea for a spinoff, you know, and I think we could bring some characters back, but some can't come back. And I think we could revisit a world where it's like we're still under a nuclear attack, but it's not so much an 80s film. It's more a survival, almost like a Walking Dead type situation where you're trying to survive, but it's like in the middle of like Texas country, the ranches and horses, and there's not much else, and you're just trying to like not find other people or the aliens, so it's a little different.
Yeah, right, right.
That's the
No,
same kind of universe, but not so much Roswell Delirium, but it's something a little different. So
yeah, I think that'd be fun to kind of explore different parts of the same universe. I always enjoyed the alternate timeline,
sure.
book, TV shows, and we've got a few out there. For All Mankind is kind of alternate timeline. That one's so well done, and Man in the High Castle was a good
Yep.
good one. But I always enjoyed those books, kind of growing up. You get the feel. So I saw that that's kind of what you were doing there. You're basically taking the actual 80s, but what happens if it wasn't just a threat? What if it actually happened?
Mm-hmm.
Then where would it go from there? I love that idea.
Yeah, and I think I was heavily influenced by the pandemic, because I don't know how it was for you in Virginia, but like here we had to wait in line to go to the grocery store to go inside and
Yeah, we did too.
yeah. And I mean, half the time you get there early and there's no eggs, there's no meat, everybody's just
Toilet
taking
paper.
yeah, those toilet paper. So there's a joke about that in the film too. Like there's some it feels familiar about the pandemic. The girls like plastic on the windows, masks, and there's things that feel familiar. And I was heavily inspired by it. But like this is a thing that it could one day happen. If you watch Oppenheimer, it's like, well, maybe that could happen at some point in our lifetime. So
Yeah, hopefully not, but yeah, it's
hopefully
definitely
not. Yeah.
it's a possibility, and you got more and more countries that are kind of working on that type of technology. At
Every
some
day,
point, the fear is that somebody screws something up.
exactly. And every day we get closer. Everybody wants to, oh, I want to be the one in control and have all the mass destruction weapons, and then it becomes a fight. So
That's right.
yeah.
It's not that big of a stretch,
Nope.
which is terrifying.
Indeed. Yeah, no, it sure is. Absolutely.
Well, I always remember early in the pandemic when we were first locked down. We're lucky enough that we've got 4 children. They're all right here. They all live within the same area, and our parents are here as well. So we're all right here. Well, early on, 3 of our 4 kids were either pregnant or had just had a baby, and so we didn't want them going to the grocery store. And then we've got older parents, so I was doing the shopping for like 5 families, doing that, and it'd take forever, because I'd fill up a buggy for us, take that to the car, and I go back and just doing that again. And I remember going one time, and I had several packages of toilet paper, and people were like angry with me.
Yeah.
I was like, you don't understand. This is for 5 families. It's not all me.
Oh yeah, no, and in the movie, like I kind of make fun of that because we would have to go out like at 10 o'clock at night to find toilet paper. My aunt, I was visiting her in Arizona, and she's very like scared, and I'm like, I don't really care or whatever. I don't need toilet paper. Well, there's always a way, But I'd have to go there like 10 o'clock at night to Target because there was like a toilet paper drop happening, and she knew about it, But in the movie, there's like references to water dropping because you can't drink the water from the sinks anymore. So now you have to drink water from the containers, like bottled water became a thing before, 2000s did, in the movies.
Yeah. That's kind of funny because it's, we're used to having to go wait in line for like a toy or a game system.
Right.
But,
yeah.
Yeah. 2020, we had to go wait in lines just for basic necessities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's even like it's almost 4 years later. I'm still stocking a little bit extra toilet paper just in case. I mean, not a ton. I don't have like a, storage room, but I always make sure that there's at least one extra package.
Yeah, I mean, you just had to have a couple extra, I mean, I used to have friends who were in Missouri and they would like mail me toilet paper as a joke, because they're like, we're fine down here. And I'm like, well, thank you. I mean, I can now sell this for like $50 a roll, in LA. Thank you.
I know there was people out there profiting off of it.
Oh, yeah, they sure were.
Of course. And then
wouldn't
we all
you,
had to
right?
learn to, start using hand sanitizer.
Yep.
So there was that shortage we went through with that. You had, all the distilleries were starting to put out hand
Oh
sanitizer.
yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because like with kind of keeping it very close to the pandemic inspiration, it's like in the movie they have what they call the Cold War cough. So people are scared of getting the
Oh,
cough in the movie. Like it's a thing, like how it was. I don't want to get COVID in the movie. It's like the Cold War cough. So people are always trying to be aware of people coughing, and it's like this always like this fear going on in the film.
that's pretty great. And you got to do like a red carpet for it.
Yeah, so Thursday, December 7th, we had the premiere at the Culver City Film Festival.
Yeah.
And we had a red carpet, and we had reporters there, photographers, and Lisa and Sam couldn't come because they were working. And Dee was going to come, and then she got sick, and then called me 8 o'clock in the morning and said, "I'm sorry, I can't make it. I'm coughing like crazy." And I'm like, "It's fine, take care of yourself." But Anthony Michael Hall came out, and the rest of the cast did. Got a lot of photos, and then we ended up selling out the theater, and then I apparently sold almost 50 tickets more than we should have. So we had to turn people away, and I didn't even get to watch in the theater because I was trying to help people, get refunded, and then say, look, we're going to have other screenings, and if we do, I will buy your ticket personally, because I feel bad that they came all the way from
Yeah,
Arizona,
that sucks. But
San
good for you for
Diego,
doing that.
and I felt really bad, but like I was like, look, I will make it right. So, we have a screening in Chandler next in January. I said, if you come there, I'll buy your tickets. Or I think we're gonna play again in February at the Man's Chinese Theater, and I will buy your tickets for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it
good
was a
good
lot.
for you. You didn't try to like put a bunch of lawn chairs down the aisle.
No, we tried. The person running the theater was not the friendliest person. It's like you have an idea, no, and I'm like, well, you have these handicap chairs in the front row. Why can't we just put up folding chairs next to it? It's
Yeah.
not blocking anything. Oh, it's fire code. I'm like, well, it's not fire code if it's next to the handicap chair. It's still in the aisle, but we tried everything, and like some people snuck in, and I watched like the last hour from the hallway, just hearing people laugh and then crying at the end. But I kind of missed the opening where I wanted to hear everybody applause for Kylee because it's her first
Yeah.
time ever starring in a movie like this, and it's like I told her, I said, there's not many child actors who get to be the star of a film. Like, I mean, not sense like My Girl with Anna Klumsky or
Yeah.
Kelly Malone. Like, you really don't have a child telling the story. So I'm like, it was very important. I wanted to see that moment when they applauded for her because I kind of missed it and I felt really bad. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean but you're gonna have a few hiccups.
Oh
The
yeah.
important thing is you got to do it.
Yep.
Everybody loved the movie.
Oh yeah.
So even with the hiccups, that's worth it. That's not bad.
Yeah, no, and then we won like grand prize for best feature film there, so everybody was really excited about it, and I didn't expect to win anything, but they really just loved the movie, and that's a good sign going forward, that because we have a festival run we're doing before we launch out to the world, and I think we've already won 12 awards so far, so
That's amazing.
yeah, people really are responding to it, and I'm shocked. I wrote it, I directed it, but I think I like it, but then I don't know until people watch it that they really. But and everyone who saw it loved it. They want to see it again. So
I love that. Yeah, it's terrific.
yeah,
When is it out where everybody can watch it, and where can we watch it?
I think it'll probably come out May of next year. I've been working with a distributor, and we're kind of like waiting a couple of months before we start really pushing it because of the strike. No one's been buying films, so and that they have the numbers are not as great. So we're going to kind of wait for things to kind of go back, and it'll definitely be on Amazon Prime, and it'll be other places too, HBO or Paramount. We're still figuring out, and we'll take the best offer, and we'll let everybody know. We'll do like a mass,
Yeah, that's exciting.
deal for that. Yeah, for the announcement. So
Yeah, that's fun. Now you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
oh yeah, no, it's weird because I'm like, now what do I do? Because I've spent, this is like a 4-year project where I started in 2019, and then it was a short, and then I couldn't. really go forward with it because of the pandemic. Like we were going to shoot the short in March of 2020, and then the hospital's like, you can't come here now. We got to save it for COVID patients. I'm like, what's happening? And then it was like, all right, well, let's make this into a feature. And then I spent the next 2 years writing it. So
Yeah. Well, you didn't seem to have too much trouble getting the cast together.
oh, I mean, let me tell you, it was a lot of trouble.
It always is trying to cast a film.
I mean, the beautiful part was, I had Kylee and Ari who plays a mom. They were always going to be the main two, no matter what. And I had to find the adult version of Kylee in the film, which is pretty impossible. But this girl named Ashton Solecki came in and just like screwed up my plan. Like I was going to get a known actress to play her role, but this girl was so amazing. She made everybody stop moving in the casting room, and like people were almost in tears. And I was like,
Wow.
okay, that's the main, that's the Firefly character. That's her all the way. We have to put the money elsewhere. So that's what we got Michael Hall instead. But getting people was easy, like all like the child actors. We found these great child actors like Caden Tokarski, Georgia McPhail, Rowan Smith. I mean, they're so talented, and they're not, I call them like child actors, but like they're almost like adults because they take direction so well and they break down the script. And I'm like, it's amazing. But to get the 80s people, was a little bit of a challenge because no one knows who I am. Like they know my work, but they don't really know all the films and stuff that I've done. So it took some time and negotiating to get people on board. But once you have like the first person signed, then people aren't scared anymore. It's like, oh, well, if they're doing it, I want to do it.
Yeah, that's true. Once you get it moving a little bit and
Yep.
get the first one or two on board, then a little easier to, because then you can kind of say, well, I've got them.
Exactly. And and that's the thing too. It's like I had Sam and Dee in the beginning, and everybody was like, oh, well, if you have those two, I love them. I worked with them years ago on a movie. And Michael's like, I worked with Dee on a movie years and years ago and met her. And so it's like they feel, okay, well, now I want to do it because you have these people on board. So you're not just some loser. You got these great actors in your movie. So
it had to be fun on set because all of those actors, they've got such big personalities. And
oh
that
yes,
a blast on set.
I mean, we laughed a lot in this movie. Sam, he would, during like moments where we had noise issues, he would yell out all these things, and I'm like, Sam, just focus, just focus. He's like, come on, we're having fun, and then we would just mess with him. And Dee, I love messing with her. I'd say things to her, and she has like, you have to really know her personality because she can act like she's mad, but she's not really mad at you. And she has this very emotional scene up on like near Space Rock in the mountains. And we did all the takes. I think we did like 5 takes. And I told her, I said, I need one more shot. She's like, really? You don't have it? And I said, I just need a close up of you holding this little rabbit in the movie. And she's like, okay, that's all it is. I'm like, yeah, you don't need to get upset anymore. We got all the coverage. And I had a plan, and I gave Kylee this little critter figure that, I bought it off of Amazon for $10. And I said, Kylee, you're going to run out and you're going to scare her kind of with this critter figure because she was in Critters,
Oh,
and
I love that.
yeah. So, and people forget that because they always think
I do.
ET.
I forgot that she was in Critters.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm like, she's like, are you sure? I said, she's not going to kill you because you're like 12 years old. She's not going to kill you. She'll kill me. So, Dee is like, on her knees over this grave. And then Kylee runs up and she's like, you have the wrong animal, and hands her a critter figure. And Dee looks at me and she goes, you are such an ass. Everybody started laughing. And then I said, that's a wrap on Dee Wallace. You're done. Thank you, Dee Wallace. You're done. We're, thank you. Congrats. And, we had fun like that. Like during the last take with Reggie, I had in the scene where the mom brings popsicles for him and Kylee. And so the last take, we already got everything, and we were like quickly trying to move everything around and just shoot it really fast. And I have her bring out Twinkies, instead of popsicles. And he just like couldn't stop laughing for like 5 minutes. He just thought it was the funniest thing. And that's kind of like the fun we had every day. It's like there's a lot of serious stuff and some crying, but there's fun and laughter, and that helps really bond everybody together.
Did you know, like going in, that that's the type of set you wanted to have, or is that something you've kind of always done? Just a fun, kind of relaxed set?
Well, like I don't, if I get stressed, no one knows about it because they should never know about it. We had one day where we ordered an 80s bus for the scene where the two girls walk off the bus and we're doing kind of this long tracking shot. And, they bring in this like very new yellow CTA bus. And I'm like, we can't use that bus. It looks too modern. We need the old school bus with the little hoop. And,
Yeah.
So I spent the first hour and a half on phone calls trying to find another bus. But no one ever knew that was happening, because that's how I like to keep things. Like, let me deal with the mess. We'll make it work. And the way I handle, the set is like, I think there are days when we're having fun, and that's okay to have fun and just be relaxed and, joke around a little bit. But then the days where we're serious, like the last day where, the little girl is now grown up and she goes to see her mom. They haven't seen each other in 10 years. We filmed that in jail, and I kept them apart the entire day. I was like, I don't want you two to see each other, because we're going to roll 2 cameras and I want you to see each other for the first time, and I want to see it on camera. And, so we kept the set very like calm, no laughter, no talking. That was like the mood all day. But the other stuff, there's some joking, and, if you don't have your actors bond with you and if you don't laugh with them, you're not going to get a performance out of them that's worthwhile. Like, you have to really be tight with your cast. And I always say, if you can laugh together, then we can cry together later on one of the heavier scenes.
Well, I love that, because just as a fan, we can tell when the chemistry's off. We may not know why it's off.
Feel it,
but you can tell it a lot of times bleeds over to the finished product. So if stuff is off on set, it's probably going to affect performances.
It shows, it shows. And, the one thing that I stole from Clint Eastwood was he never says action. So
I've heard that. I didn't know that. And I talked to somebody a few weeks back on an interview, and they told me that. And I was like, really? I never knew.
Yeah. So like day 5 of the movie, we're filming with Sam Jones in the bunker. And I don't say action. I say, whenever you're ready. Give them that little 5-10 seconds to kind of get in the moment. I always have the AC, like, you do soft sticks or do the sticks away from their face so they do not get jolted. I'm like we'll do it away from their face to keep it. Otherwise, they're just like shocked, and they lose focus. And so we slated, and then I'm like, whenever you're ready. And then Sam Jones is sitting there, and he's like, are you going to call action? I'm like, I'll never call action. I said, when I say whenever you're ready, that's your cue to go. That's it. And he goes, that's pretty cool. I like that. And then he just, that would be
because it gives you that extra second or two to kind of be ready. Whereas if you have that thing snapping in your face or somebody yelling action, maybe it throws you off for just a half a second.
No, it does. It's very jarring. Like, when we did the last scene in any of the therapy scenes with Ashton, she'd always say 10 seconds. That's all she'd say to me, 10 seconds. And I'm like, of course you have 10 seconds. And she would sometimes we would slate, and then she wouldn't be in her seat. She would be out of the room, then walk into the scene and then sit down. And then, I just said, whenever you're ready. And then she go 10 seconds, like it hasn't started yet. Like, that's the clock hasn't started. Yeah. And it's like, it was important for her to have that, like that air to breathe, just become and meshed in that moment. So important for the actors to have that space, because otherwise you're not going to get that performance, and it's.
Well, that's right. And it didn't cost you much. I mean, 10 seconds is nothing.
Oh no. I mean, we shot 32 gigabytes of footage, so there's a lot of footage, but I'm like, that's fine, but I'm like, it's important to have, let the clock burn a little bit, let the camera burn a little bit, just to have the security. And I don't mind doing long takes. I don't mind giving you that space, and it's very crucial to this film, because they're like the first hour is all about nostalgia. Like, it feels like you're watching an 80s movie. You feel good inside. And the composer of the film was Troy Van Leeuwen, who was in the Queens of the Stone Age.
Yeah.
He did the music, and he did a phenomenal job with the music. And so there's a lot of like beats that feels 80s when the mom's doing aerobics. I mean, you feel like, oh, this is like synthesizer and all this stuff going. You feel good and warm
Well,
inside.
that was I was going to ask you if you had synthesizers in
Oh,
the
of
background, 'cause
course, of
you have to
course.
in the
Yeah, you
80s.
have to. It's the 80s, we reference Def Leppard a lot, and so there's some rock stuff and riffs, and and then the second half it becomes very serious, and then everything changes, and so I gave the space to the actors to have fun, and then to just let them get emotional, because there's stuff in the hospital where things are getting very bad, and there's a lot of decay with the characters. They're just some people are dying, so there has to be a safe space for them to act. So
I love it. I love it. Rick, thank you so much. I think it's such a fun, exciting project. I can't wait to watch it. I told you we're going to do it at the studio. We'll have everybody over.
yeah.
I can't wait. It's going to be a blast. So thank you so much for coming on. Whenever you get the next big thing, you got to come back.
Well, I absolutely will. I definitely will, and maybe with some of the cast with me, we'll come on together. So
yeah, bring them with you.
Okay.
So a couple little things, Rick, before we wrap up.
Sure.
Anything else you're working on that we can keep an eye out for?
Right now I am writing the new script, the spinoff called Space Rock, which, it's not, like I said, not Roswell Delirium, but it's like the Roswell universe. So I'm working on that. I'm finishing up a documentary. It's a little more heavy. It's a little serious. It's kind of like about, things that happened with, the police and kind of like George Floyd kind of world, with police brutality and the kind of stuff. So I'm kind of do some heavier. And then I just finished up this James Brown documentary.
Oh, I saw that you were working on that. That had some fun.
That was fun. There's a lot of interviews. I think we shot over like 50 interviews for what I did, because I didn't do them all, and I worked on that. And then I think there's some other things coming up too. There's a lot of stuff that I do that just keeps popping up. I'm like, oh, I forgot. I just had a doc that I worked on where I filmed Nancy Pelosi. It aired on MSNBC, kind of about gays in the military. It's a really good documentary. So that all these things that are just keep coming out like crazy, I can't keep track of. And
but how great is that?
Oh, it's great, and it's good to be busy. So it's good to be busy.
For sure. So, okay. So last thing before we go,
Sure.
Where can we find you? Where can we find Roswell Delirium on social media?
You can find me on Instagram. That's where I go the most, at Instagram.com, Rick Bakewell. And then you can find Roswell Delirium on Facebook or Instagram, just the name Roswell Delirium. And you'll see all the trailers, you'll see all the pictures, updates, about our award winnings and where it's going to be screening next and all the news. That's where to go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Rick. And definitely open invitation. Whenever you want to come back, we'll do it again.
Thank you. I'm going to keep you to that. So
absolutely. I'm a man of my word.
Appreciate that.
Today,
it's hard to find these days. It's hard to find these days.
It's about impossible.
It pretty much is, especially in California. It's like, okay, sure.
Oh, kind of. We're people of our word until we're not.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, hold on one second, Rick. Hope you enjoyed that. Can't wait to see the movie. Richard Bakewell. The movie is Roswell Delirium. I'm excited about it. I'm an 80s kid. It's my favorite decade. Absolutely can't wait to watch this movie. And, if you're like me and an 80s kid or a fan of the 80s, help Rick out, support him. Make sure you check the movie out when it comes out. Looks like it's going to be in the spring going into the summer, but keep an eye out for that Roswell Delirium. If you enjoyed this interview, please go back and check out our interviews with Dee Wallace and Sam Jones. They are a couple of my favorite interviews, and we've done almost 700 now. I know you'll enjoy it. So please check that out. If you'd like to support us, our website is MeisterConPod. MeisterCon.com is our website. You can find all 700 episodes, audio and video on the website. So please check us out there. If we're doing something in studio, like watching Roswell Delirium, or if we're going on location, covering a convention, anything we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Please subscribe if you go there. Really could use your support. It's free, and I guarantee you'll have a good time. There's so many. I'm so proud of the people we've had on the show. It's just unbelievable. And the last thing I'll leave you with is IMDb, which is the entertainment database, recently named us a top 100 podcast. I can't believe it. There's 15 million podcasts out there. To make a top 100 list is just, it's unbelievable for me. But you can help us by going to imdb.com, looking up the Two Opinionated podcast, and that's it. Just bring up the page. The traffic really helps us out. And you can also check out our guest list, kind of peruse episode by episode if you want to. There's a lot on the page, but just bringing the page up is helpful to us. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again this week. Definitely don't take you for granted. Appreciate you so much. Till next time. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm once again here to ask for your support. It's been a big year for the Two Opinionated podcast. Back in February, we got to live out a dream, moderate for William Shatner here in our hometown. In May, we passed 100,000 downloads on our YouTube channel, and we followed that up in June with 50,000 downloads on the audio side. We recently posted our 600th episode, which is pretty good volume for just a father and son operation. Not too many podcasts can keep that volume up. We've been doing this now for 4.5 years, 600 plus episodes. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a really big deal for us because we've always gotten the views, but have struggled to get people to subscribe. So that 1,000 was a big deal for us. And best of all, we were recently named one of the top podcasts on IMDb, which is the entertainment database. Those that are ahead of us, we came in at number 82. Those that are ahead of us are bigger companies like Disney, mostly Marvel, and Joe Rogan, that type of podcast. So for us, being just a small West Virginia father and son podcast, to be in the top 100 out of 15 million, it's a pretty big deal for us. So thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Got a couple little ways, though, that you can help us, and they're free, and they're really easy. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, please go to YouTube. It's under MeisterCon Pod. Just hit subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Really helps us a ton. And maybe even more important, if you could go to imdb, imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and just look around the page. Just having that traffic on the page really helps us out. So that's a couple easy ways that you can support us, even if you're not listening or watching all of the time. And we want you to listen and watch, because I think that our guest list, I would put up against anybody, any other show, podcast, anybody out there. I think our guest list holds up. So please check us out. You probably will find somebody that you like, or maybe somebody that you didn't know you liked, but kind of discovered them on there. There's tons of that. If you're into music, we have that too. If you like books, we've got authors on there. If you're more into what goes on behind the scenes in the entertainment world, we've got producers, directors, video artists, anything you can think of that happens behind the scenes, we've had them on the show. So definitely check us out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.